Let's call this meeting to order on resolution for the water, for the meter size and the rates and all that good stuff.
Can you have them put them in?
Oh, can you just pull your mic down?
My bad.
Yeah, it should be good.
Yeah, it's on. Give me 1 second. Currently, we're falling behind on the meter size and the rates. Our residents is picking up the biggest tab for our water. And the businesses that use the most is actually paying less. I don't think that's fair. Do you think that's fair?
Definitely not.
Hmm?
Definitely not.
No. So what we want to do is bring it up top. And all right, you didn't have to help me. I'm a little lost. It's this one here.
Okay.
The current status.
Current rate, yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
can step in, Steve, yep.
Thank you.
So before we had talked about raising, creating more tiers and raising, over a certain amount, like the higher meters would pay a higher rate based off of the meter size. After looking at some best practices that are kind of implemented across the United States, most people don't do, or municipalities don't do that. They do it by the meter size, so just raising the equivalency, which is that extra handout that you got kind of before the meeting today. So the equivalency is based off of our 3/4 inch meters. So a 3/4 inch meter would be a 1, obviously, since that's the base meter size. And then the equivalency for a 1 inch meter would be 1.67. So currently, under our existing rate structure now, that multiplier is 1.65. So it would go up to 1.67 to match that. And then you can go down the list there. So an 1.5 inch meter would be 3.33 times the size of a 3/4 inch meter. 2 would be 5.33, and the 3 inch would be 10 times. So the proposal isn't to jump straight to what this multiplier says. We're going to gradually make our way to that. So the first year, the proposal I have is to go with the 15% for those other meter sizes over 1 inch, so 1.5 inches to 6 inches is what we have in the city. So just do 15% until we fully met this multiplier. So like, for example, the 1.5 inch meter, once it gets to 3.33, we would stop. And that's where the base fee would basically tap out or max out, because this is the recommended amount of multiplier for each meter size. So this is just the base fee. It's not based off of, an amount that's going through the meter. It's just the base fee that would be changing. So the other set of slides that I handed out to go with the resolution there, I just kind of wanted to build up to this point of why we're doing this, just to kind of give everybody an idea of why we're proposing to do the rate structure change. So first page behind the resolution, there's kind of a graph that you can see. It's blue and kind of moves to the right and then upward. So that graph there is just depicting our operating expenses. So in 2026, those are the actual numbers of what we expended in 2026. There are some missing entries there, obviously, because we don't have, or when I ran these numbers, didn't have some of the reports that we need, like other post-employment benefits, ERS, or net pension liability. At this time, I didn't have that implemented into these numbers, but that's what, before those were implemented, what 2026 is showing. And you can see that it's actually up and over 2025's amount by quite a good bit. And this is after removing fixed asset costs for the year. So actually transitioning those from a cost or an expense into fixed assets. So it's no longer showing there, and even after that, it still shows as an increase in 2026. And then 2027, you see that increase, that's the budgeted amount for the water fund. And then every year after that, as you can see on the graph, it says a 3% growth from 2027 onward. And that's just to keep up with inflation, basically, is why that was put into the model. The next page is capital expenses, so the one with kind of the green piece on it. So capital expenses are just some of the bigger projects that we plan to do. So for example, as part of that water PER that we did in 2028, a backup generator project will probably be completed, or per the PER and our analysis we're going to do on backup generation, they're going to basically propose that we do some kind of project to update that in case power were to go out, we have that backup generation available. So that's one of the projects in 2028, which you can kind of see a spike there in the amount of capital expenditures that are budgeted. And then 2030, we have the 2 water main extensions, one at the high school and one at Interstate 90, the extension to loop them in. And then also on Highway 47 a few years later. And I tried to also time these with the years that we would be getting renewable resource grants. So that's usually approved by the legislature, so it'd be kind of, the timing would be after that decision has been made by the legislature. The next page, page 5, or next slide, is the debt financing. So with some of these bigger projects, the city doesn't have enough cash flow to pay for that out of its own coffers. So to make up for that, we're going to have to budget for issuing debt to pay for it. So you can see in 2029 it did go up. You know, it kind of goes up and then plateaus, and then it goes up again basically every year that we have a project. And it's kind of the lighter colored graph that I'm showing and looking at on my page.
So Drew, once something is kind of funded or paid for, it can kind of level out for a bit?
The rates, or like cash flow, both of them, I'm hoping that it will level out, or can level out, based off of, so I haven't made it that far yet in all of my graphs here, but the proposal is a few slides forward here. So I'll get to that, I guess, here in a second. The proposal isn't necessarily to stay stagnant, it's to keep up with the requirements of the debt and then just increasing costs overall. Now, if costs, I guess, stay lower than what's been budgeted, that would help out a lot, because our cash reserves are going to stay higher, and we may not have to raise our rates as higher next year, let's say, after we've done this analysis again in the future. But the next page shows revenue requirements, so it shows the base operating expenditures, the debt that we're going to have to pay, the debt payments every year and how they're increasing, and then also the capital expenses on top of that. The page after that is projected revenues. So this projection is if it was just to stay the same, or like our revenue were just to stay the same. So on that page, which is page 7 of those slides, the yellow is sales of service, so the actual service of water. The blue is withdrawals, so like withdrawals from our savings account, for example. Other operating revenue is the kind of the purple color. The red color is non-operating revenue. The darker blue is grants, and then borrowed funds is red, or kind of the pinkish red color there. The next slide. So this kind of puts our current revenues versus expenditures, so the same projected revenue if it weren't to change. It kind of lines those up, and you can see, for example, in 2028, in that fiscal year, after you add all the expenditures together, and then you put that bar chart for revenues against that we're going to be a little short. And then if you look at 2030, it'd be kind of the same thing. You can see that green peak goes over the top of the revenue and what we've projected there. And then you can kind of go through the other years that we plan on doing, or I projected we will do capital projects. It's also kind of the same song and dance. You can see that green peak is over and above, meaning our expenditures are over and above what our revenue will be. Page 9 kind of outlines our cash position. So if we want to keep a 25% operating threshold, which means we want to keep 25% of our fiscal year's worth of expenditures, just our operating expenditures, which based off of 2026 actual numbers is $218,789. And then we say we want a cash basically position of $1 million over that. That would put us at 1.218 million is what we need to carry forward. And then that top line on this graph on page 9, you can see starts to go down as soon as those capital projects start to happen in 2028, and it's just about right at that threshold in 2028, and then goes below it in 2029 if we weren't to change anything. So then page 10 kind of puts all of these pieces and parts together in this model. And you can see the expenditures in the background with the revenue bar chart in front of it, and how we're short, and where that cash position kind of starts declining right around 2028 and continues down until it's below zero actually in 2032 basically. So the adjustments proposed are on page 12. A couple pages later, there is a title page in between there. Proposed solution. So this model calls for 10%, which is actually a little less than what's being projected, but 10% in 2027, 7% in 2028, 10% in 2029 and 2030, and then starts to kind of taper off a little at 5 and 7% the years after that. Like I said earlier, if our actual expenditures come in below what I'm projecting in this model, we won't have to raise rates that much, like we can keep them down and still keep that cash position over basically that cash reserve and our our operating amount of $1 million there. So the current rates on page 14, so the base charge by meter size is 80 cents for a hydrant, 22 for 3/4 inch meter, 36.31 for 1 inch, 44.31 for 1.5 inches, 62.96 for a 2 inch meter, for a 3 inch meter 90.66, and then 94.76 for a 4 inch meter. Moving up, this graph doesn't show 6, but there is a higher amount for 6s, but we don't currently charge for any of those in our system. The base charge, so 0 to 3,000 is obviously 0. That goes with the base amount I just stated. And then our current rate is anything over 3,000 is $2.75 per 1,000 gallons over that 3,000 gallon mark. And then bulk water is $10 per 1,000 in the bulk water station. So our increase, or the proposed increase that I have asked for, I guess, based off of this model, is for the hydrants to go to $1, which is 20 cents. The 3/4 inch meters will go to $23, which is a $1 raise. The 1 inch meter goes up $2.10, so that meter now goes to the full 1.67 times the equivalency rating to get to 38.41, so that's $2.10. And then from here forward, like here down, from 1.5 inches down, it's that 15% increase to that equivalency rate for this year, and then we can kind of fight that off if we need to going forward for these bigger meters. But 1.5 inches would be $55.59, so that's $11.28. 2 inch meter would be $78.98, which is $16.02. 3 inch meter would be $113.74, which is $23.08, and then 4 inch meter would be $118.89, which is $24.13. But like Steve said earlier, in our analysis that we did a few months ago, the residents in 3/4 inch and 1 inch meters were paying a higher percentage of the water service that was being received in the community, and not the bigger meters. So this will get us closer to what we want to see as far as revenue goes. On the overage or the tier amounts, so 0 to 3,000 would still stay 0, just the base amount, the base fee. 3,000 to 8,000 gallons would be $3 per 1,000 gallons over the 3,000 gallon mark. And then between 8,000 and 25,000 would be $3.5 per 1,000 gallons. And anything over 25,000 gallons would be 3.75. And then bulk water would stay the same at $10 per 1,000 gallons. So the breakdown of like commodity charges you see there, the 3,000 to 8,000. So basically 0 gallons to 8,000 captures about 80 to 85% of our community, falls within that range. So only 15% of the bills actually come out from about 8,000 to 25 plus that you see there. So most of the meters that we have within the community will only be impacted by that 3,000 to 8,000 increase from 2.75 to $3 for the most part.
How many meters do you have that are bigger than the 3 inch?
Could you speak up,
How many meters are bigger than 3 inch?
Not very many. I think there's 6
a lot of
3-inch
There's
meters.
a lot of 1.5 to 2 inch meters out there.
Yeah.
Right, but I was thinking about
Yeah, that's
anything
your big
bigger.
flange ones. There's a lot of them out there, I'd hate to have to count them. I'm sure we can get an accurate count if we needed to, but.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're basing something, you know, the water usage on the size, then, or even going forward, right?
Mhm.
Yep. So the next page, on page 17, there's some estimated bills for the 3/4 inch meter. So the 2,000 gallons, about, let me see, I wrote this number down earlier. Just a second. So 30% of the bills that are on 3/4 inch meters fall from 2,000 to 0 for the usage every month, and then it goes up to 60% from 0 to 4,000, and then about 95,000 gets to 15,000 gallons used on average per month. So that's why we or this model shows those as the gallon amounts for a 3/4 inch meter. But if 2,000 gallons were used, it would just go from $22 that it's at now to $23. There would be no other increase because it didn't go over the 3,000 gallon mark. If a user uses 4,000 in a month on a 3/4 inch meter, it would go from $24.75 currently to $26 per month. So $1.25 for that month, and that's kind of the middle tier user. If somebody waters their lawn a bunch in the summertime, 15,000 gallons, the charge would have been $55. Now that charge will be $62.50, which is a $7.5 increase. But that's on the higher side of the usage, and at that 95% percentile that I was talking about a minute ago. If we look at the 1 inch meters on the next page, page 18. So the base now, so 2,000 gallons again would be $36.31. Under the new rate structure would be $38.41 for $2.10. If you use 6,000 gallons, which gets you to the 60 percentile. The old rate would be $44.56, and the new proposed rate would be $47.41, which is a $2.85 increase. And then to get to the 95% or percentile for 1 inch meter sizes, you have to go to 45,000 gallons. The current charge is $151.81 per month, and that would go to $187.91 per month. So that increase would be $36.10 per month. The next page shows a 3 inch meter, which, like we said earlier, there's not very many of them out there, but just for the sake of going through this exercise, the base of 2,000 that we've been discussing would have cost $90.66 under the current rate structure, $113.74 under the new, so that's $23.08 difference. At 7,500 gallons, it would cost $103.04 under the old rate structure. Under the new proposed, it would be $127.24. At 75,000 gallons for that big of a meter, it'd be $288.66 under the old rate, and $375.74 under the new rate, which is $87.08 increase.
Drew, when's the last time the bulk water rates have been raised?
Last year,
Last year?
Yeah, we just raised it.
We raised them last year up to, well, it hadn't even been a full year yet.
it's been a little over a year, but last year was the last time we raised bulk water.
I pick it up once a week.
Is there any questions on the model or how I arrived at what I'm proposing?
Any questions for Drew?
Thank you for your work, Drew. That, you made it pretty clear.
Yeah. So really, for the majority of users, Drew, just to clarify, it's basically,
Raise $1.
yeah, it's $1 base and 50 cents per 1,000 gallons extra usage.
Yeah.
Correct? Over and above the 3,000.
Yes.
Anybody in the audience got any questions about it?
Yeah, we've got public comment on there. Not all at once.
Don't scare me.
How are people doing with the watering that's currently going on and the rates that they're paying? Or how's the city doing with that?
What do you mean? How are they
Well,
doing?
the rates that people are paying right now, but like in this drought where people aren't watering, how's that working itself out there?
Most of the people are still watering,
Water.
especially the ones that have your underground sprinklers. They're gonna still water.
Well, I know, but I'm probably myself and Terry Wagner are the only people in our neighborhood watering, so I'm thinking somebody's gotta be saving a little money, because I mean, people could still be watering.
Yeah, because they're
You
well
know.
under
Yeah.
the amount. A lot of people think right away you put the garden hose out there, it's,
Yeah.
the bill jumps. Only if you do it every day, couple hours.
Right, so I
You're
think
gonna pay.
that, you know, people could learn a little bit about that, you know, to say, hey, I mean, you might have 3,000 gallons, but you could still run
Every
downstairs
other
and look
day
at
or
your
every
meter.
Thursday.
But I mean, you know, people still could be watering rather than just thinking that, you know, it's not. you know,
They're
it's not
actually
going
giving-
to.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
The biggest thing right now, they're actually giving the city revenue for
Yeah.
water that they haven't used.
That's what I'm saying as well, is that, you know, because, yeah. I don't know,
With these raises, Drew, where does it make our break even with those projected fund or projects? I mean, you say like 28, we were falling through with our current rates.
Yeah, it moves it out to about 20, in the middle of 2030 now, is where it pushes it out. But like I said, if our actual expenditures come in lower than what I projected, so it's all based off of our budget, this model is. So if we meet our budget this year and have the same expenditures as we do budgeted amounts and then build 3% off of that every year, is what this model is based off of. So if I look at it next year and we didn't expend, you know, whatever it is, $1,100,000, whatever the budget number is, if we don't expend that much and it's only like 750,000, well, that's 250,000 that we saved. We don't necessarily have to raise rates as high in the second year because that break-even point might have extended out another 2 years after that.
Did he answer your question?
He did. I just, the fear of going into debt in those future projects, I'd rather, you know me, I'd rather have a nest egg ahead of time when we hit those $2 million projects
Yeah.
than take out loans to pay them for the next 30 or 40 years, you
Yeah.
know?
The other thing is too, those are just projections from the PDR, so it might come in under budget, probably not, but I mean, we can always hope that it does come in under budget.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it don't.
Can you, your level, is there a cap to that for savings?
I don't know that there is in water, but you don't necessarily need to have, if like 3 to 6 months is what you need to have in reserves, essentially, yeah. Which that 25% reserve I was talking about at the beginning is kind of what that is. It's just to save for operations, and then the million over that is just to kind of have that nest egg that George was talking about.
So we don't get caught, like,
Yeah.
with a big high increase. And we all of a sudden have to come in and say, Ramona,
Well,
can't go to
my
the old folks home this year, you know, if they
My
work it to
question-
pay your water bill.
question, Steve, was if there was a cap as to how much money you could also hold in the savings, because a lot of times government money, you can't hold it only so long.
Finance director.
Yeah, so like yield to maturity, like we can't have, like investments per se that are way out there. Like our average investment can't be over 5 years. So we don't have any of those. Our yield to maturity in that account is like 2.3 years basically. So it comes in way under that, but yes. We don't wanna charge an exorbitant amount either, where we just have a huge nest egg that we don't ever use, so. It's almost like trying to find that break-even point of where we need to be to
Without
continue operating but not charge too much.
Any more? Okay. George, do you think we ought to move it? Clayton? Move this forward?
Just a public comment.
Because it's got to come out of committee.
When the time comes to, I would say so.
You want to move it out of committee?
They were voting on it later.
Yeah, it's on the
Yeah.
resolutions.
It's on the
Yeah,
resolution.
but it's still got to come out of committee, don't it?
Not like it would be in a legislative body. No, you can move to make a recommendation or not, and then city council generally can accept that or not. It's not binding.
I think we ought to move it forward. Yeah, we're gonna have. So we'll move it out of committee and let it go forward.
It's number
That-
2446.
Resolution 2446 will move out. And this will close the water committee meeting.
Okay, 5:58, so we'll start our public hearing for budget amendments at 6:10.